Hi, and welcome back to Focal Point, AFR Talk. Brian Fisher is my name. Great to have you aboard the USS Focal Point today, our patrol boat in which we patrol the choppy waters of America's public life, looking without pause for the coordinates where truth intersects with politics. Our commander is on the bridge. The scriptures, our nautical charts, the Holy Spirit, our navigator, and I serve as your loyal, humble, and cheerful first mate. So once again, according to nature, the laws of nature and nature's God, marriage exists for three purposes: for companionship, for sexual expression, and for the procreation of children. Same-sex marriage cannot satisfy even one single solitary purposes for which marriage exists. It should not be enshrined as an alternative, as a acceptable alternative to heterosexual marriage. Our public policy ought to reserve special treatment for the marriage between a husband and a wife. That's why it's appropriate that we have certain tax breaks, tax protection, certain incentives for husbands and wives to bear children. It's appropriate that we incentivize that. That's what we want to encourage. That's what we want to incentivize. Now, too much of the time we incentivize by subsidizing, rewarding behavior which we know is socially and culturally destructive. That's why it's an absolutely terrible thing to subsidize illegitimacy. In fact, if a woman, she can go look at the federal charts. I've looked at them. They can go look at them. It tells you how much money you will get every month depending on how many illegitimate children you bring into the world. So you got a woman looking at that, and she says, look, if I want to boost my income, I just need to keep cranking out illegitimate children. And if I get married to the father of any of them, I lose all of those benefits, so there's no point in doing it. I mean, the incentives right now are so enormously perverse, and who pays the price for that? Who pays the price for this misguided subsidization of illegitimacy and out-of-wedlock childbirth? It is children. It's vulnerable young children who are getting chewed up. They don't know who their fathers are. They're in these enormously unstable environments. What are the chances that they've got of developing a healthy, successful life of their own? They've got no models for what it means to be in any sort of a successful marriage or an intact family. What are the chances they're going to be able to create one of those when they reach adulthood? Virtually nil. And so that cycle gets repeated one generation after another. Now, we can't stop people from making bad lifestyle choices. I'm not talking about that. We can't stop people from making foolish, ill-advised, unwise decisions. What we can do is we can refuse to subsidize it. We can refuse to reward it. We can instead choose through our tax policy and our public policy to reward decisions that are life-affirming and that create families, sustain families, and bring children into intact marriage settings. So that's what we can do. Now, it's interesting along that line, and I'll be curious to your response to some of this. 888-589-8840. 888-589-8840 is the number to call if you want to join the conversation. And what I want to talk about, I have several stories here, and I'm not going to have time to go through all of them, but I've been struck by the number of stories just over the last several days that all have to do with roles in marriage, in particular of women in marriage. And what you're seeing is this massive reevaluation by feminists of the feminist ideal of the woman that has it all. She's got the career. She dresses to the nines, 8 to 5. She's got the whole Megillah. And even feminists now are saying, nah, that doesn't work. I'm done with that feminist myth that it's possible to have it all. And it's an amazing trend right now in America. Well, it's in the UK as well. But the number of feminists who are leaving the career workforce to become full-time, stay-at-home moms. Now, I'm guessing most of you moms that are out there that are working right now, you would like to stay home if you could. In fact, I've read surveys that indicate that 71% of working moms would stay at home if they could, if that option was available to them. If they felt it was financially feasible for them to stay home, they would do it. They would prefer to be full-time homemakers for their husbands and for their children. It's economic necessity that drives many of them into the workplace. And the interesting thing about this is it's the more successful feminists that are making this choice because they can. They're married to successful husbands. Their husbands are making six-figure incomes. Now, I've never made a six-figure income in my life. I probably never will. But I will flat out guarantee you from day one, we made a decision we would keep Debbie home, be a full-time homemaker, full-time mom. It didn't matter what we had to do to make that happen. We were committed to that. That was a priority for us, and we made it happen. I mean, the first full-time job that I had, I made $15,000 a year. We kept Debbie home as a full-time homemaker, so it can be done. There are sacrifices. We've never owned a new car. We've never taken an exotic vacation. We don't regret one last thing about that because it was important for her, for us to keep her home, to be a full-time homemaker, create a home for me and for our children, and make that the outlet for her creativity, for her ingenuity, for her hard work. And, you know, so you have all these feminists now. They're coming back to the place that Debbie and I were starting in 1976. And we didn't get there by reading social research. We got there by reading the Bible. You know, it's very clear. You look at Genesis 3, the consequences of the fall. Where does it fall? On the woman, it falls in her marriage and in her family. That's where the consequences are felt. You will experience pain in childbirth. And where does the man experience it? By the sweat of your brow you shall eat. The ground is going to produce thorns and thistles for you. So it was clear from where the fall was felt that man was designed to be working the soil, working in the hot sun, to provide for himself and for his family. His wife was to be home, providing a home for him and for their children. That was God's design. So that's why we did it. And now these generation of feminists, they've been out there trying it the other way, and they're saying, nah, don't like it. I want to be home with my children. Here's a piece of the Daily Mail Online. I'll just read some excerpts from it. I love to take phone calls on this topic, 888-589-8840. A growing number of women are dismissing the career-driven conventions they were raised with, saying no to full-time work, believing instead that every household needs one primary caretaker, the mother. 1 year ago, Kelly McKenna, 33, quit her job running a program for at-risk children to stay home full-time because she says women are better at the job than men. The mother of two and self-described flaming liberal and feminist told New York Magazine the feminist revolution started in the workplace and now it is happening at home. Ms. McKenna, who has a master's of social work from the University of Pennsylvania and struggled to balance long hours with caring for her children properly, said that no amount of professional success could compare to her happiness knowing her two children, Connor, 5, and Lily, 4, were being looked after by her, not a nanny. Her sacrifice of a salary pays her family back in ways Mrs. McKenna believes are priceless, and she is not alone. A new breed of young, educated, and married mothers are finding themselves untouched by the notion of having it all. For the first time since the downturn of 2008, the percentage of stay-at-home mothers rose between 2010 and 2011, and some of the biggest increases have been among younger mothers aged 25 to 35. Don't tell me that this millennial generation is gone, that we've lost them to traditional values. It's a total lie. And for the GOP to go chasing after these millennials by pandering to them and catering to what they think are their narcissistic impulses is completely misguided. What do young women, increasing numbers of them that are millennials, they're in their 20s, they're getting married, what do they want? They want to be full-time homemakers. They want to be full-time moms. Right at the same time that the GOP, the wizards of smart and the GOP are out there trying to run away from traditional values as fast as they can go. Mrs. McKeno is now able to be present for her children no matter what, cooking healthy meals, helping patiently with homework, and most importantly, devoting herself to teaching them life lessons from manners to good habits that she believes every child should know. That's the deal. Why bring a child into the world? Why do that? And then pay somebody else to raise that child. Pay somebody else to teach that child values. Pay somebody else to teach that child how to resolve conflict and how to share toys and how to get along with siblings. Why pay somebody else to do that? Bring them into the world and then pay somebody else to raise them? Makes no sense to me. Patricia Ireland left her job as a wealth advisor 3 years ago after her third child was born, and she has no plans to go back to work. Rather than a sacrifice, she feels it is a privilege to oversee not just what they do, but what they believe, how they talk to other children, what kind of story we read together. That's all dictated by me, not by my nanny or my babysitter. I'm really grateful, she says, that my husband and I have fallen into traditional, we could say biblical, gender roles without conflict. I'm not bitter that I'm the one home and he goes to work, and he's happy that he goes to work. I mean, the surveys that are done of men, you ask them, do you want as a part of your vision for your life to have a full-time job? Almost overwhelmingly, almost all of them say yes. That's what they want. Women don't say that. They don't say, man, my dream is to work full-time for the rest of my life. They don't say that. Their dream is to be home, creating a home for their husbands and for their children. But Mrs. McKeno and Mrs. Ireland, it's interesting, they're not referred to as Ms. in this piece, but as Mrs. Mrs. McKeno and Mrs. Ireland are among those who view managing their children's lives and their households as their highest achievement. They believe they are better equipped for the job than their husbands, booyah, and are blissfully happy in their decision. Some days I just have to pinch myself, Ms. McKeno said. It's so easy. It's so rewarding to live this way. So this is the latest in feminism. Love to get your reactions to all of this. Focal Point AFR Talk when we come back. 888-589-8840.